Hello and welcome to the video. I have tried to make this video 4 or 5 times and I just haven't been able to get it right, so hopefully this is the take. I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time. I really don't want this video to go over 10 minutes, but apologies if it does. But I'm making this video mainly due to the fact that I want to get my story out there. Not that it's anything big, it's just when people ask me how I started running and I tell them, they think it's pretty cool, pretty neat. So I just wanted to share it on YouTube myself, maybe for keep safe later, show my kids someday, I don't know. But yes, this is how I started running. So I think in order to look at how athletic I was, we have to look at when I was younger. So I'll try to sum this up pretty quickly. When I was in elementary school, I played flag football, I played bitty basketball, and I did, machine pitch. And then that 4th grade transition, I played pads for a year, and I believe I quit basketball, and I stayed on my baseball team. Baseball was my main sport all throughout middle school. I was on a travel team, 2 travel teams, and that's what I did. I only played baseball from like 4th to 9th grade, or 4th to 8th grade. Sorry, 4th to 8th grade. That's really all that kept me active. And I played golf. That was more of a hobby. I did that here and there. So that's really all I did, just to give you a perspective on how I was in middle school. So let's just jump right into high school. This is where it gets interesting. And so yeah, my freshman year, right away, freshman year, I wanted to get active again. I wanted to start doing more sports. So I decided to try out for golf. That was like the one thing I was equally as good at as baseball. So like those were my 2 best sports. But I just never did golf in middle school. So I get to high school, and I go to the first practice, and the coach pulls me aside, and he's like, "Are you Brett?" And I go, "Yeah, that's me." And he goes, "Son, your grades aren't that good. I just can't have you here." And I didn't argue with him. I didn't say anything. I just said, "Oh, okay." So like, my bad. I didn't know that. So that really put a damper on things, mainly because I really loved golf and I just wanted to play more sports. So when he said that, I was kind of shot down. But I realized that it didn't shoot me down enough because from 4th grade to 8th grade and then 9th grade, I really didn't care about my grades. I know it's hard for me to admit that, but for the story's perspective, I need to tell you guys that my grades were bad. I was barely passing. I was when I said like I was barely passing, like I was barely passing. Like it was so bad that I'm kind of ashamed of it. But the turnaround is great. So my grades were bad enough that I couldn't play golf. And so I picked him up a little bit, but not too much. I didn't want to try that much, so I just did the bare minimum. So my freshman year, I got really into basketball, the prior summer, just because my friends were like always going out playing basketball. I made a lot of new friends that summer, so we just played basketball. I played 2K a bunch on my Xbox, which actually kind of helped out like the love for basketball. So I try out my freshman year, and you can't get kicked off a freshman team. So I made it onto the team somehow. I was a pretty bad basketball player. I scored 0 points the whole season. I never started. I was like the last string, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I was not good. I was not a hustler either. But I did grab rebounds. So I guess I was a little bit of a hustler. I grabbed rebounds. That was like my main thing. I probably got like 4 to 5 rebounds a game. And that was about it. I got a couple assists, but never scored my freshman year. I had chances, just couldn't capitalize on them, and I just didn't score. My coach, however, at the end of the season, his name's Brian Ferber. He plays a later role in this story. He goes, "Hey, if you ever need anything, just text me, call me. I know you want to get better, so here's my number." Gives me his number, and thinking about it, I never really was one of those kids to like work hard. Like I never like on the off season didn't care. I just played video games, and hung out with my friends. So I was never much of a hard worker prior to high school. And then the moment that I was waiting for comes freshman year baseball. Like, it's a sport I played all in middle school. It's a sport I loved. That was like my main sport. So I get to baseball, and I'm just, I'm an average baseball player. The grades above me, they're great. The kids in my grade, they're really good. But there was only a couple kids in my grade that came from the same, like, travel baseball team. So, like, we thought we had higher standards for ourselves. And so the first 2 games of baseball, I didn't start, but I was rotated in a little bit. I just wasn't a starter. And then there was like a 5-game period where I started. I was in the batting lineup. It was going well. I was doing great. However, I just want to keep this, just so you know, my grades were still, barely passing. So I was on thin ice there. But yeah, so that was baseball. It was going well. And towards the back half of the season, I actually got a stress fracture in my back. So it was a really huge setback. I had to end up sitting out the rest of the season, and it was just rough. It was probably the worst injury I've ever had in my whole entire life. It was just brutal. But when I was done, obviously it ended like in the summertime. The only sport that I could play and not have pain was basketball. So I texted Coach Ferber. I said, "Hey, can you train me in how to get better? I want to get better." He said, "Yeah, sure." We go to the school gym. He shows me a few things, and he goes, "Look, I'll gladly teach you more basketball, but you have to join cross country." And in my head, I'm like, this dude cannot be serious right now. Like, I'm not about to do this sport. So we talked about it a little bit. He showed me like clips on his phone, and I guess I caved in. I guess I did it because I wanted to get better at basketball. And he's like, "Yeah, it'll help you stamina wise. It'll help you like so much. It would help you so much for basketball." So I was like, "All right, sign me up. Let's do this thing." And Brian goes, "All right, but don't wear those, to practice." I was wearing LeBrons, and I asked him if I could wear them, and he's like, "No, do not wear those." That's like one of the funniest things I think from this story. Like, I was about to show up to practice in LeBrons. Anywho, I get to practice my sophomore summer. I get there, and I start training. I start getting to work. And as the season goes on, obviously I'm getting better and better because I'm actually trying. I had no recent summer mileage, like no summer base, so it was just off practices. And so, my times were dropping as the meets went on. As time went on, my times were dropping, and my grades skyrocketed. Like within like an instant. Like my grade never dropped below like a 3.9 my freshman year, which was insane. That was probably the biggest takeaway from this whole thing, is that my grades just came with running, because I knew that if my grades were good, I could keep running, and the love for running that I like developed, I never wanted to stop. So I made sure my grades were good just so I could keep doing it. And, our team made to state that year and for the next 2 years to follow. And that's kind of just what kept me, that's just kind of what's kept me going. The fact that we were a state, contending, qualifying team, I had to make sure my grades were good. And just, I don't know, I guess once I realized that my grades could stay good, I just kept, I kept doing the work, kept doing everything. So that's kind of what that's what I stayed in. I just stayed in that little bubble of mine, and I kept working hard. I put in a lot of summer mileage, and that was really it. I ended up qualifying for state my senior year by myself. And the funniest thing about the whole thing is that I always forget to mention this in the other like past clips that I've made for this. I actually ended up quitting baseball to do track. So you kind of have to drop some things that you love in order to see what your true potential is. And I left basketball and baseball for that part to run. I did indoor track and outdoor track. And cross country, so it was a huge development, and I actually, I ended up going to college, so that was a huge step, in my story. So that's all I really have. I didn't want to make the video super long. But that's all I've got. That's my story. If I have one key takeaway, it's that it's to try something. Just even like if it's food, like when your parents try to make you like try something, just try it. You might like it. That's kind of what my saying is whenever someone asks me about this story. If I wouldn't have tried cross country, my life could be completely different. And I just want to thank Brian Ferber for just the opportunity that he's given me. I'll never forget like what the conversation we've had in that gym. So